Yes, it wasn't
Ah,
me for
classic. Even
once.
in America.
Shit, bad.
Yes, man.
So, bad. How is the flippin' heartbreak going,
Whew.
man?
Yes, bud. I'm I'm not gonna lie to you. It's been a roller coaster, up and down. But having more awareness about what you feel and being with it rather than trying to resist it. Like before, I would just try to cut it off, to be like, no, that's it. Forget about it. No communication, delete numbers, and then just pretend like it never happened, right? That was always my default. To actually go through the emotions this week and to feel the sense of, fuck, man, everything from like, a little bit of grief, a little bit of loss. Like, okay, so now suddenly that space and that time that was filled up with this person is now gone. A little bit of like, a little bit of resentment came in at stages, where I was like, fuck you, you know? and then, and then also some of these old stories coming up, where my mind is latching onto, is there another guy? What has happened? What is she doing? Da, da, da. And then recognizing that, what, fuck it. Even if she is, it doesn't change things. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Like, she doesn't want to be with me. Clearly it didn't feel right because I was not feeling healthy or happy in the situation. So, you know, you accept it for what it is. It's done. And then letting go of all these patterns of like, I want to find out what the real story is, you know? And so yeah, it's been a very interesting dance, but a week later, and I feel much better. Much better.
Yeah,
So thanks for asking.
no worries, bud. No worries. How funny is this? Just changing the subject. When I was getting ready for our chat now, um, I was just sort of checking the video and stuff, like how it looked, yeah, and then I noticed like some of my hair was like it was like pretty scruffy. So I went to the bathroom and I was like, oh, let me just tighten this up, and then just these memories came back because I think you and I were going to chat, and these memories came back from like school days and stuff about like, remember how we all used to have these like middle partings, but like, and like it was like, yeah, your hair had to be flipping perfect, the line, and it was just like us just it's so funny the things we do as kids, eh? Like it just reminded me, like, I don't know, we all used to have these like flipping stupid middle partings, and it was such a big deal, wasn't
It was
it?
such a big deal. The curtains, bud. Like,
Yeah.
and I remember always looking at you going, fuck, Gareth has the perfect fucking hairstyle. Like your hair grows perfectly, like, from both sides, it grows into this point at the back. And your haircuts were always sharp, but then you had this perfect middle parting and you were able to bring it down to your teeth. Some oaks just were able to pull off a great haircut, right? And then and I remember thinking, damn it, man, like, my hair grows from the right all the way over to the left. There's like a serious cow's leg, and I could never get it 100% the way you and some of the other guys could get it. It's hilarious. And it was a big part of us, of our of our persona, wasn't it? Like having
Yeah.
the right hair.
Yeah, totally, totally. And I even remember like the one time we had PE, like, physical education, and Devon, one of our mates, we didn't know, I don't think we knew, but like he had like lang curly hair, but it was always straight because he actually blow dried his hair in the mornings before
That's right.
school. And then we chucked him in the pool the one day after we had finished our PE class, and he flipping lost it. He was like, and we were like, yes, Steve, we're just chucking you in the pool, you're just having fun, sort of thing. And then we knew why pretty quickly afterwards, because he couldn't flip and blow dry his hair, and it just went lank curly for the rest of the day, and he was devastated. Yes, I remember that was so funny.
Dude, that is hilarious. Yeah, I remember that. That
Yeah,
was a huge thing for him to suddenly reveal that he had this Chris Krop.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, it was funny, but it was funny. But yeah, like how I was going to talk a little bit about yeah, my week in and I don't know if this is like similar for other people or not. But yeah, I had like a real like day yesterday where I was like lank frustrated, and I think it's like it's partly due to, just kind of being locked down and not having like a big circle of people that we can kind of go out to, or I can at least here in Brazil. Um, and also just kind of the news, like, I try and stay away from it, but like I also like to go to Twitter to kind of see what's going on. I mean, I don't really go onto any of the mainstream media outlets unless there's a link posted on there or something. Um, but all the stuff in the world that kind of like is going on, around um, the case in America now with Derek Chauvin, and I guess all the stuff in America right now seems to be quite like race baiting, and you add that on top of Corona and then vaccines and all these sort of things, and like if you have like an alternate view, you almost like sort of frowned upon, and like you're a conspiracy theorist and all these sort of things, and I just felt like lang frustrated yesterday, and it was weird. Like I had a chat with my dad, and I like almost spent the whole chat just venting. But also, what I guess why I'm saying this is like, I don't know if like people even realize, like all this stuff that's going on right now seems to be like super divisive. That's all it. That's the main goal. It just seems to be us like turn us against each other. Turn us on each other. And what I feel that is, and it's successful, right? But also what it's doing, which people don't necessarily get, is collectively there's like a human spirit, right? Like, good, bad, they all kind of like, somehow balance each other out, but work against each other at the same time. And all this stuff I feels like really brings the collective human spirit down, and the soul of like who we are down. And I get sad sometimes when I think about that, like, some people think they're fighting one thing and they're like fighting for justice and stuff, but actually I don't feel like it's really doing that. It's almost like having the opposite effect. And yeah, I don't know, it was just like yesterday I just was like lank, just frustrated, and like fucked off, but also sad and down and stuff like that. And yeah, it's yeah, I don't know. It was just how I was feeling yesterday.
Wow. Well, bud. Well, the ups and the downs are all part of the cycle of life, right?
Mm.
And I read or I heard a very interesting talk, Eckhart Tolle, talking about the new earth and this new conscious collective where people are starting to look at the world differently and starting to recognize who they really are beyond the egoic mind. But what he was saying, interestingly enough, was that the egoic mind, or this conscious collective that's been driving humanity for the last few hundred years, which has created all of the wars, all the separation, all of the fears and anxieties, and has sort of led nations to weaponize themselves and to judge each other and cast each other as either good or bad, has not yet come to its full its full crescendo yet. So
Wow.
he was saying that as you start to notice this awakening, that at the same time the fear-based conscious ego, or the egoic consciousness, is also going to still raise its head to another level. So, like you were saying, all in balance, it's going to be very interesting times right now, bud. And we're not going to get away from it. And you have to learn to either take part in it, to identify with it, which means sitting in a place of judgment, or be conscious enough to observe it and focus on your internal peace. And that's going to be the balancing act for a lot of humans, because you can see a lot of people walking around completely drawn into the story,
Mm.
and feeling depressed and feeling like there's no more hope, and that the world is a violent, terrible place. And yes, while there is that in the world, you also get the option to look at it through different lenses and feel differently about it. So it's almost like there's going to be a separation before there's a united thing happening for everybody.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, bud. And it's almost like it's like filtering now, like one versus the other versus the other versus the other, and I think ultimately, like, good always sort of seems to prevail in the world. And like truth comes out and all these things, and that will be a result of everything that's going out now, like it's a tussle, between these two sides. And yeah, just yeah, like you said, the good thing, the important thing is to not let it get you down, if possible, and to just be observant of your own thoughts and feelings, and yeah, that's like great advice. So yeah, but yeah, I just thought I'd let you know that, it's like just one of those things, and it's but it happens, like it's just part of this kind of like roller coaster of how our situation right now, like I know obviously you're flipping great there, like in Florida, like, yes, see, I think everyone wants to move to Florida, because it's pretty much life is normal. But I think a lot of other people are, um, not in that situation. So that's where the roller coaster comes for people like us that are not in that kind of normal life situation.
Yeah, for sure. But and your frustration, I'm sure, is it's well founded because of the environment that you're sitting in, and to be with those emotions is important, but to recognize them. And I guess the trick is to try not to use language that makes you identify with being it. In other words, like you could wake up and go, "Oh, I am sad," or "I
Mm,
am angry." But that's your egoic mind trying to identify, latch onto that emotion, and say, "This is what I am."
mm,
Versus, okay, I know that the truth is that I'm always this level of peace, this consciousness behind the thing that's looking at the mind, looking at the stories, looking at the emotions, to acknowledge them. Okay, this is part of my human experience, to feel it, to be with it. And then just by creating that little bit of separation, to not identify with it, but to observe it and go, okay, whew, it feels, the emotions are real, right? That chemistry is in my body. I can feel my mind, telling all sorts of stories of why, asking why is it this way, and it shouldn't be that way, and I need to fight against it. But if you try fight the emotion, it's going to persist. You almost feed it energy. Versus, okay, it doesn't feel good, but I can accept that it's there. And just in creating that little bit of space will allow it to move through you a lot quicker,
mm.
back
Yeah,
to your
yeah.
place of peace.
Yeah, bud. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Just listening to it and stuff, but also just like also switching it up. You you got another client, which is awesome, eh? Like, how did that person come along into your life?
Yes, man, it's so funny, Gareth. Gareth Pickering's taught me a lot about the process of manifestation, right? And one of the things was really being very clear with your intentions and reading them out and looking at your vision in every day. So this year, I think I told you in the last conversation, I've really made a point of being very consistent with these practices. And one of my affirmations that I write down and that I read is that new clients come to me, right? And in weird and wonderful ways, basically. And it's so funny, man. Out of the blue, I got a phone call from my cousin in Mallorca, and she had just sort of felt inspired that she wanted to go on a coaching journey, and she was like, "I'd like you to coach me." So that was 2 weeks ago. And then like a couple of days ago, I get a phone call from a guy called Peter, who's a friend of her husband, and I haven't spoken to also in about a year. And out of the blue, he's like, "Hey, I'm in Miami. I'm going to be here for a month, and then I'm going to Europe." He says, "But listen, I've just spoken to Carly, and she's really enjoyed the first couple of weeks of coaching with you, and I'd be interested in coaching too." So yeah, it was just this, beautiful beautiful happening of people talking to each other and feeling inspired, and when people are ready for it, it calls to them. And yeah, so it's always joyous, man, when people come reaching out looking for the thing that you provide. And it just makes you feel like this is the reason why I'm doing this.
Yeah, for sure. And those are the exact sort of like, clients that you want, people that come to you. It's not like you're like trying to do some sort of hard sell or anything like that. It's like it's just coming into your life, because those are the sort of people that are probably going to put in like the work and the efforts, because they want to change, they want to be better.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can feel the energy in people, when they're hungry for change in their life, they put the work in. Like I'm just looking at my cousin and how much depth she's going into with answering the questions, and the time and the feedback and the energy and the excitement as she's starting to uncover stuff for herself. And yeah, just if this had been just a couple of years ago, I would have been flat out panic trying to chase people down. You have somebody that may want to, and then you phone them 10 times until you close them, right? But that's not the way to do it, man. And that's a good lesson for life, right? Like, ask for the thing you want, and then as you start to observe, okay, here's the potential, this is the thing, not to force it, do what you have to do, and then surrender. And if it's to be, it will be. If that person's for you, there will, it'll feel flowy. And back to the whole relationship thing. There was resistance internally. There was friction, and that's just your body telling you, hey, something's off here. And I think, when we did that course, The Illusion of Money, he spoke about that a lot, right? About
Yeah.
listen to how it feels in your body. You're looking for the things that are a 10 out of a 10, like the things that make you feel like you're free, that you are flying. And that's it, man. Just listen to your body the whole time. But I think for most people, we're so distracted, right, with a million things going on, that we don't even listen to our body anymore. We feel the friction. We don't feel good. We feel drained, tired, anxious, and we think it's normal.
Yeah, see, just what you said there about like being distracted and these sort of things. I was listening to a podcast with Cal Newport. I don't know if you've heard of him at all, but
Did he write the book Deep Work?
yes, he did. Yeah, yeah. So he has never used social media, and
Wow.
yeah, never ever has he used it. Although like his videos and things have been like viewed by millions and millions and millions of people, but the initial reason that he decided to not like use Facebook and stuff was because he he hated listing things like when they were like, my favorite video is, or my favorite book is. He's like, I don't dig that stuff. So that's like the initial reason that he never like first went onto Facebook, back in the day, and then now it's like 14 years later or something. He's never had a social media account, and he's never heard of a good reason why he should actually get one. um and amazing, isn't it? Because if you think about the distraction that it is, and how these things are designed, to keep us like literally looking at the screen all day. How much are we missing out on, because we're so distracted, like just so much, you know what I mean? And it was such a good reminder actually for me, because I think in lockdown I've definitely been, even though I haven't been on Facebook or Instagram or any of that, but I've used like Twitter a lot more, just because I was interested in the news side of things, and I think that is a cool way to get different news. But definitely being too distracted and from the things that I probably should really be doing.
But that's epic. So I actually did an exercise the other day because I realized that Instagram had become my little drug. And so I went to go look at how much time I'm spending on Instagram, right? So on average, it was 19 minutes per day. Last week, this week, 14 minutes per day. Um, but I can't remember if I told you, but I'm actually doing a digital detox once a week.
Yeah, you
So
did. Yeah.
every Sunday. So this time I actually turned off the phone Saturday night before I went to bed, and then only turned it on again on Monday morning. And Buri, the space that is created is a game changer. So if there's anybody looking for a little reprieve from the vortex, the dark hole that is your phone, draining you for all of your attention, try that, bud, because it's amazing. And this last weekend, a couple of beautiful things happened. So one, you can't look at the time, right? Because now our phones have almost become our watches, right? and we
Yeah.
keep looking at the time. So one, you don't look at the time, so it almost feels like the day stretched out because you're no longer rushing from appointment to appointment. You can't communicate with anybody, so you can't make plans, or you're not reaching out. And so what you do is you allow the day to unfold as it's supposed to for you. So in the morning, I went off with my book to the coffee shop, sat down, and as I'm reading, my friend Alex walks in. Okay, so I'm supposed to interact with Alex this morning, have an awesome 2-hour conversation, just really helpful and insightful, that we mirrored for each other. And then that afternoon, bumped into a couple of friends at the park. I was like, okay, so then you can just be, you're not looking to keep going to the next thing, which we tend to create for ourselves on our phones.
That's so cool, man. Yeah, see, what a cool way to spend your day. Hey, just like whatever happens, happens, and I'm just gonna go with the flow. Once again, I guess it's in line with your, your kind of morning mantras and stuff. Like, I just want things to flow into my life, in and out, and that's yeah, such a cool exercise to do, to turn it off for a full day. But really cool.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, cool.
And you, my brother, how's your dance with being so remote, and still feeling, or still being able to connect with the outside world, and also how much time are you spending in nature to really just connect with the place where you're at?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm super. I think I'm pretty disciplined, and when it comes to getting outside, like every morning I'm out there first thing, for a nice long walk, and truly connecting barefoot on the beach, and then during the day I'll go for another long walk, sort of thing, like just because we're in such a beautiful part of the world. So that's definitely just been one of the luxuries of living where we are living. And the other cool thing that also actually happened this week was, I am restarting the podcast. So I've started reaching out to potential guests, but then actually Craig and I, we re-recorded our last podcast together, because we actually did that ages ago, when we first decided to kind of have a break, and then we said, okay, cool, I would take it on, and he was going to go, do his thing with Shanti, his wife, to grow their business, and we recorded it then. But it was also still, even though it was a great recording, like, because it really showed the emotion, like, because we both kind of were super sad about eventually going our own ways after 3 years, um, but we obviously we haven't published that one, because I just haven't got around to actually starting again. But we said, let's re-record that last one, and we did that last night, and it was just such a great chat, and great to do that again, so yeah, it feels good. That is my connection to the outside world, is to do that, to start doing that again, and yeah, just really sort of ramp it up, and have lots of great chats with people. Like, it'll fill the void of not seeing people in person, being able to at least connect a little bit, not as deeply, as course, when you connect digitally, but it's still, you can still have great conversations and just be inspired, like, after listening to people and speaking to people. So I'm definitely, yeah, that's been a great thing that's sort of happened again this week.
And just so for everybody to know, so Gareth, when you and I went through our phase of coaching each other, this was one of the topics to help you sort of create the game plan and understand what your vision for your new version of podcast was going to be. And that was a year ago now. So it's almost like you needed to decompress for that whole time. And now it sounds to me like you suddenly have found the passion, the fire again, that's giving you the juice and the fuel to start taking action again. And it's a beautiful example of not forcing things when you just don't, when we're not feeling that inspiration. And that sometimes that's what your soul or your own journey needs, is just a bit of patience, and it will come around. And then how did it happen for you? Have you just woken up and suddenly been like, I'm ready to kick it off again?
Yeah, I think it's been like building and manifesting inside me, because I had stopped almost like even though I was going for walks, I wasn't listening to podcasts. Before that, when I, being here, I was like listening to podcasts, like, tons of them. And then about 3 weeks ago, I was like, oh, I really got to get into the walks and listening to podcasts again. And I listened to like hours, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 hours of, podcasts while walking recently. And that was the final thing that finally lit that fire like properly again, and I was like, you've just got to go and do this, like, it just reminded me how much I just enjoy listening to people speak and their stories. And I think there's something you can learn in every one of those. And that's what it was, though. It was going for those walks again and listening to other people, do podcasts. And I was like, you've just got to go and do this again. So it was like a little bit of a build up, but yeah, like you said as well, I'm glad that I think I definitely needed that time away, just to see how I felt, sit with how I felt. Like, do you really want to do this? And yeah, I just took my time about it. I wasn't like, the world is going nowhere, and you can take your foot off the gas sometimes, and that's actually okay too. So yeah, I'm like now, and also in a way, like, it almost re-energized me too, like, to be like, okay, cool, I need to fill this tank up again. And to do that, I actually need to take the foot off and just have a bit of a break. And now I'm like roaring to go, you know what I mean? Because I'm
Yes,
full of
man.
energy and excitement. So that's really cool.
I can sense that in you. That's awesome. Have you come up with a name yet?
No, it's going to be the same name, but it's going to be ridiculously human. Like there's not going to be a hell of a lot of changes, because towards the end we were really like working. We had really come up with a good formula of everything, So
Yeah.
no, I don't think I'm really going to change a hell of a lot. And just it's just going to, but it's going to be very different. The dynamics are going to be super different, because it's just going to be me talking to one person, and I think I don't think that is definitely different when there's three of you speaking, and two of you are hosts, especially. So the dynamics are going to be super different, and that's going to be really interesting for me. And I'm just really excited about that. I think, I think it'll be good fun, and hopefully provide like a lot of value for people,
Of
especially in
course.
this crazy
Yes.
world.
Well, your podcasts really have, and there's so many amazing people out there to share so many great ideas. Um, you know, your your word of curiosity, you have this curious mindset to want to know about stuff and how people view the world, and you know different things that are going on. Where do you think your curiosity comes from, bud?
Yes, but I don't know. I think going overseas as a youngster, hey, really opened my eyes up to the world. Like that's probably where it really, really began. Um,
Which overseas trip? Your rugby
well,
trip the first time, or when you actually left South Africa to go live in England?
well, I mean, that probably what instigated it was the rugby trip overseas, going, yeah, see, there's this whole other world out there. But then, like, that was just obviously like a 3-week trip with your buddies from school and whatnot. But that definitely probably started it. But then once I moved to London the year after that, and like living with Aussies and Kiwis in the shared house and playing Aussie rules football, and like, you just like all of us, and you're in this big city by yourself, and you're meeting all these people from different countries and stuff. Like, I think that's what really got me curious, and then over the years, I'm sure it's similar to you. The more you travel, the more people you meet, the more you experience, the more you actually realize, wow, there's so much out there that I don't know. So, and I want to know, so that's what it was. I think all those things kind of just keep me curious
Yes, Gareth.
constantly.
I think we're so blessed to have come from South Africa, which really is isolated, right? Like it's in the arse end of Africa. And I remember growing up, if you didn't have bucks, bro, your parents weren't taking you overseas to Europe, right? Like you're lucky if you're going to Durbs. But
Exactly, bud.
I do remember being at university, and there were quite a few guys that came from affluent families, and I remember my one friend Clayton going, "Let's go to America to go work a ski season there over one of the holidays." So in my naivety, I go and I get the visa with him, and it's like we go in. But then it came down to like, oh shit, where am I going to get the bucks for the tickets, you know? And I went to my dad, and I'm like, Dad, I need money for this trip. I'm going to America, and I just remember him shooting me down so badly, bro. Like, you know, his old story of, what do you think, money grows on trees, and fucking forget about it. This isn't happening, and you know, you've got to come out of dream world here. And I remember being so upset and frustrated by that, that I actually wrote a like an angry letter to myself to be like, this will never happen to me again. And I will make sure that I always have the means, and that I fucking see the whole world. And I think that letter that I wrote to myself in a very emotional state has almost rippled into my life, because my whole last 20 odd years has been about travel, bro. I've seen more
Yeah.
countries than most people. So it's a wonderful thing. But quickly, on the point of like being excited and seeing what's out there, do you remember our trip to Thailand with Bruce and Brandon?
Very well, bud.
That stepping into Southeast Asia and a completely different culture than what we were used to, that was like, that for me was a real adventure. Do you remember the feeling we had jumping into the back of a tuk-tuk, and those ferries taking us from island to island, and the full moon party with all the Swedes and the Israelis, people from all over the world? Wasn't it epic?
Yes, that was a highlight, but that trip. Yeah, man, four buddies from school, like you said, traveling in flipping Thailand and just like running amok, and it it was. But I mean, getting suits made in Bangkok and all those things. Yes, but there's so many good memories of that trip, and yeah, like you said, it's those things that always add to your curiosity. You know, like you're meeting people and you meet these like Israelis, and like, you know, you speak to the guys and the girls are like, yeah, no, we have, you know, 2 years that all the girls go into the army, and we're responsible for like, you know, all the guns and the ammunition and all the planning and all that sort of stuff. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, and it's those things, but like if you don't travel, you know, you don't actually get to ever realize that, you know, that there's these other people that have all these other things going on in their countries. And yeah, that's definitely the thing I think that makes you curious, but also makes you wise, you know, like when you're able to travel. And I think, yeah, what a luxury to have learned those things when we were so young. Yeah.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And back to your point about separation and this whole narrative that's being created about, you know, people that go against the mainstream. Like, it's crazy, man. Like, you know, you talk about freedoms, and yet anybody that does not agree with you doesn't
Yeah.
have the right to speak their mind or have their own viewpoint on the world. It's crazy, man.
Yeah. Yeah, the hypocrisy and the contradictory, you know, stance on that is just like it's like, what, you can't see what you're saying, like, is the opposites. You know, it's just, yeah, but that's yeah, man, that's, I guess, why conversations like these are important, you know, just for people to see that it's okay to think a little bit differently, to just maybe encourage people to be curious about the world, about their own lives, and that there are so many people in the world with so many different realities, and we need to consider all of those. You know, we can't just think that our story is right, because that's that's completely wrong. You know,
Yeah.
um,
It's a
yeah,
story. And there's
exactly.
6.8 billion different stories and ways of looking at the world. So the sooner we just appreciate and accept that,
Mm.
the sooner we can look at each other and go, wow, aren't we interesting creatures?
Exactly,
Rather
exactly.
than pointing and going, you are a muppet, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's all it takes, you know. Let's be interested in each other rather than like being angry at each other. It's just, I mean, isn't it
Mm.
obvious? You know what I mean? Like, it feels like it's so obvious, but yet I don't know what it is that stops us. But yeah, we can only work on that. We can only work on getting better at that.
That's it, bud. So one
Yeah,
person at a time, starting with us.
exactly, bad.
That's
Exactly.
the
So
key.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the chat, but I appreciate you listening, and yeah, it's been really cool.
Yeah, and feel through it, Gareth. You'll feel great. You know, I can already see your smile is there. So whatever emotions were coming up for you, it's good to talk about them also. That's also part of the process of, you know, of dealing with stuff. You know, and for anyone out there that is feeling frustrated or angry, just, you know, reach out to somebody close to you and just voice it, you know, somebody that's going to be there for you, just to be a space. And that's it. But, you know, the fact that you've just been able to mention that, Gareth, I'm sure is going to already make you feel like slightly better. Huh?
Yeah, 100%. But you know, it's so lacquer being able to chat to a friend that gets it, you know, and I know like you're going to listen and not be judgmental and all these things, you know, and it's great being able to be vulnerable with a long-standing friend. And I think, you know, the lesson is there for myself, but for lots of people as well. Just find that person, find that safe space, and um yeah, just speak what's on your heart, and you know what's weighing you down and all these things, because it's very, yeah, it'll help you a lot, definitely. So yeah, thanks, my man.
Awesome, Gareth. Thanks again, buddy.
Yeah,
Love you. We'll see you
love you
next
too,
week.
bud.
Yeah.
Cool, my boy. See you,
Ciao,
buddy.
boy.
Cheers.